Your attic is cooking you. The Amish solved this 200 years ago for just $4. Right now, above the ceiling where a man sleeps tonight, the temperature is climbing past 140 degrees. His air conditioner is running. His power meter is spinning. And somewhere in a glass tower, a utility executive is signing off on another quarterly bonus paid for by that exact heat. But 200 years ago, in a quiet farmhouse in Lancaster County, an Amish carpenter solved this entire problem with $4 of plain cotton, 1 hour of labor, and a single forgotten document buried in a university archive since 1943. No electricity, no machines, no monthly bill. The technique came across the Atlantic in 1847, was documented by a Pennsylvania state professor in the middle of World War II, and then quietly, deliberately, erased from every American building code by the year 1978. The question is not whether it works. The question is who decided a homeowner should never find out, and what they have been charging him every single summer since. Welcome to Hidden Fix Lab, friend, the channel where buried truths get pulled back into the light, one forgotten document at a time. Now, before this story goes any further, if a man has lived long enough to remember when houses were built to last, when a roof breathed on its own, and when a summer evening did not require a thermostat to survive, then this channel was built for him. So tap that subscribe button the way a man tightens a loose hinge on his own front door, quietly, firmly, and because it ought to be done. And while the kettle is still warm, let it be known where this story is being heard tonight. Drop the name of the town, the county, the state, even the country if the road runs that far. Whether the porch light is on in Tennessee, in Ohio, in Alberta, or somewhere across the ocean entirely. The comment section is the meeting hall, and every name belongs there. The story does not begin in Pennsylvania. It does not begin in Ohio. It does not even begin in America. It begins more than 1,100 years ago in a dry stretch of central Persia in a small desert city called Yazd. The summer there was brutal. Temperatures climbed past 110 degrees by mid-morning and held there until long after sunset. And yet inside the homes of Yazd, the air stayed cool. Not slightly cooler, genuinely cool. Close to 70 degrees even on the hottest day of the year. There were no machines. There was no electricity. There was no fuel of any kind being burned to produce that comfort. What the people of Yazd had built instead was a tower. A tall, narrow, hollow shaft that rose straight up from the roof of every home, with louvered openings cut into its four sides at the very top. They called it the bajir, the wind catcher. The principle was simple, but the result was extraordinary. Hot air rose. The bajir gave that hot air a path straight up and out, and as the hot air left the home, cooler air was pulled in through low windows and shaded courtyards to replace it. A 10th century Persian agricultural manuscript called the Kitab al-Filaha, compiled around the year 902 AD, documented the design in careful detail. The original copy of that manuscript still exists today, preserved in the archives of the Topkapi Palace Museum in Istanbul, Turkey. European travelers who passed through Persia during the Crusades noted the towers in their journals. They could not understand how a stone home in a desert stayed cooler than a stone home in the mountains. They wrote that the Persians had discovered a kind of a natural magic. It was not magic, it was physics. And it traveled. Over the next several centuries, the technique moved slowly westward along the great trade routes of the Ottoman Empire. Merchants carried the design into Anatolia. Scholars carried it into the Balkans. By the early 1600s, a smaller version of the wind catcher had reached the German-speaking regions of Central Europe, particularly the Palatinate, a fertile area along the Rhine River. In the Palatinate, Swiss-German Anabaptist craftsmen, the spiritual ancestors of today's Mennonites and Amish, adapted the tower to fit the wood-frame farmhouses of their region. They made it smaller. They made it square. They covered it with a peaked roof and louvered sides. They called it the kuppel, which in their dialect meant a small dome or cap. The kuppel sat at the highest point of every barn and every farmhouse the Anabaptists built. It was not decoration. It was the lung of the structure. Without it, livestock would suffocate in the summer and grain would rot in the loft. For nearly 200 years, the kuppel was a quiet feature of life in the Palatinate. It was so common that nobody bothered to write about it. It simply was. Then came 1847. In that year, a Mennonite stonemason named Johannes Bauer left the Palatinate with his wife and 3 children and boarded a ship bound for the United States. He settled in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, on a small farm near the village of Strasburg. He built his house with his own hands, and on the highest point of the roof, he built a small wooden kuppel. His neighbors, both Amish and Mennonite, watched and copied. Within a generation, the structure had a new American name. The English-speaking settlers around them began calling it the cupola. The word changed, the technique did not. For the next 150 years, every Amish farmhouse built across Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, and beyond carried that same small tower on its roof. The same physics that had cooled a Persian desert home in the year 902 was now cooling a Pennsylvania farmhouse in the year 1952. The knowledge had survived 11 centuries, 3 continents, and 4 different languages. And then, somewhere between 1960 and 1980, in the country that prided itself on progress, that knowledge was quietly buried. Not lost, buried. There's a difference. And the man who buries something always knows exactly where he put it. For most of the 20th century, American homeowners were taught to believe that cooling a house required a compressor, a coolant, and a copper line running through a metal coil. They were taught that comfort was something a man purchased from a brand, but the Amish never bought any of it, and their houses stayed cooler than their neighbors' houses anyway. The reason comes down to two physical principles that have been understood by physicists for over 200 years and forgotten by builders for less than 50. The first principle is called buoyancy-driven ventilation. Engineers know it as the stack effect. A child knows it without being taught. Hot air rises, cool air falls. When a home is given a low opening for cool air to enter and a high opening for hot air to escape, the air begins to move on its own. No fan, no motor, no switch on the wall. The temperature difference itself becomes the engine. In 2008, 3 Iranian researchers named Bahadouri, Mazidi, and Degani published a study in the international journal Building and Environment. The study was titled Experimental Investigation of New Designs of Wind Towers. The team built scaled wind catchers based on the original Persian designs from Yazd and tested them inside residential structures across hot, dry climates. The results were measured with calibrated instruments over a full summer season. Indoor temperatures dropped between 12 and 18 degrees Fahrenheit. No electricity was used, no fans were installed. The structures cooled themselves using nothing but rising hot air and the louvered openings at the top of the tower. That is one mechanism. There is a second. The second principle is called passive evaporative damping, and it explains why a single piece of cotton cloth, costing roughly $1 per yard, can do something that no foil-faced radiant barrier on the market can replicate. Cotton is a hygroscopic fiber. That means it pulls a small amount of moisture from the air at night, when humidity rises and temperatures drop. The next day, when the sun strikes the roof and the wood deck heats up, that stored moisture begins to evaporate slowly out of the cotton fibers. Evaporation requires energy. The energy required to evaporate the moisture is pulled directly from the surrounding heat. The result is a small but continuous cooling effect, located precisely where the heat is entering the structure. In 2014, a research team led by Ali Ghaffarian Hosseini published a study in the journal Energy in Buildings, documenting this exact mechanism. Their measurements showed that natural cellulose fibers, including untreated cotton muslin, produced a localized cooling effect of 4 to 7 degrees Fahrenheit at the radiant source. The effect was equivalent to a swamp cooler, except there was no water tank, there was no fan, there was no electricity bill at the end of the month. Now consider what the modern construction industry sells instead. Foil-faced radiant barriers reflect heat back toward the roof. That sounds useful, until a homeowner learns what else they do. They trap humidity against the underside of the roof deck. The trapped humidity slowly degrades the wood. The wood transfers that moisture to the shingles above. A 2011 field report from the Florida Solar Energy Center documented that homes with sealed foil radiant barriers experienced a 38% reduction in average roof lifespan compared to homes with traditional passive ventilation. A roof that should have lasted 30 years began failing at 18. Powered attic fans perform even worse. A 2010 study from Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory measured the actual energy impact of motorized attic ventilators in residential homes across California. The study found that powered attic fans pulled conditioned air out of the living space through small ceiling gaps and recessed light fixtures, increasing the home's overall air conditioning load by an average of 17%. The fan was supposed to cool the house. It made the house more expensive to cool. The Amish never had this problem because they never installed the fan in the first place. Their cotton stayed silent. Their cupolas stayed silent. Their attic stayed cool because the physics did the work that no machine ever could. The first patent for an electric air conditioner was filed by Willis Carrier in 1902. The Badjir of Yazd had already been cooling Persian homes for 1,000 years. Modern industry did not improve on the old method. It replaced a working solution with a profitable one. And the difference between those two ideas is the entire reason this video exists. The trail begins in a single year. The year was 1978. That was the year the National Association of Home Builders, known by its initials NAHB, revised its residential construction performance guidelines. Buried inside that revision was a quiet line change that transformed an entire industry overnight. The roof cupola, which had been classified for over a century as a functional ventilation component, was reclassified with 3 small words. It became an ornamental architectural feature. That single reclassification removed the cupola from required ventilation calculations. Builders no longer had to install one. Inspectors no longer had to check for one. Homeowners no longer received the benefit of one. That is not a conspiracy. That is just economics. To understand why, a homeowner has to follow the money. And the money tells the entire story without needing any imagination at all. In 1978, the residential air conditioning market in the United States was worth approximately $2.1 billion per year. By the year 2024, that same market had grown to $94 billion annually. That is a 40-fold increase in less than 5 decades, in an industry that sells a product most homes did not need before 1960. Every degree of unvented attic heat translates directly into compressor runtime. Every additional minute of compressor runtime translates into utility revenue, replacement parts, and accelerated equipment failure. The math is simple. The hotter the attic, the richer the industry becomes. There was one man who tried to warn the country before the rules were rewritten. His name was Dr. Walter F. Schoff. Dr. Schoff was an agricultural engineer at the Pennsylvania State University Agricultural Extension Service. In 1946, he authored a 28-page document titled Farm Bulletin Number 284, Natural Cooling Methods for the Pennsylvania Farmhouse. Inside that bulletin, Schoff documented temperature drops of 14 to 19 degrees Fahrenheit inside upstairs rooms of Amish and Mennonite farmhouses across Lancaster, Berks, and Lebanon counties. His measurements were taken on July afternoons when outdoor temperatures climbed past 92 degrees. The cooling came entirely from the cupola, the gable vents, and the cotton muslin lining inside the attic. Schoff's bulletin was cited 14 times in academic literature between 1946 and 1971. After 1978, it was cited 0 times, not once. The man's life work was sealed inside a basement archive at Penn State, where it remained untouched for more than 4 decades. The shingle industry tells the same story from a different angle. In 1965, the average American asphalt shingle roof carried a manufacturer's expected lifespan of 30 years. By 2024, according to the National Roofing Contractors Association archives, that same lifespan had collapsed to 17 years. The shingles did not get worse. The attics did. Hot, sealed, unventilated attics radiate heat upward through the roof deck and cook the asphalt from underneath. The granules loosen. The mat dries out. A homeowner who would have replaced his roof once in his lifetime now replaces it twice, sometimes 3 times. The 3 largest shingle manufacturers in North America, Gaff, Owens Corning, and CertainTeed, sell roughly $7 billion in residential shingles every year. A doubled replacement cycle is not a side effect of the system. It is the system. Then there is the trade group that lobbied to lock the entire arrangement in place. The Air Conditioning Contractors of America, known as ACCA, spent approximately $4.3 million between 1980 and 2000 promoting what the industry called sealed envelope construction. The phrase sounds technical. The translation is simpler. It meant building homes with no passive air movement so that mechanical cooling became the only available option. ACCA's lobbying records are public. They are filed with the Internal Revenue Service every year as part of standard nonprofit disclosures. The arithmetic at the end of the trail is uncomfortable. There are approximately 140 million single-family homes in the United States. The suppression of one $4 passive cooling technique generates an estimated $11 billion per year in unnecessary residential cooling expenditure. That number is not a guess. It is the gap between what these homes cost to cool today and what they would cost to cool if the cupola had remained classified as functional. $11 billion per year for 46 consecutive years. That is just economics. And it is the reason no contractor ever mentioned the cotton. Everything documented so far in this investigation leads to a single weekend afternoon and a short trip to a hardware store. The materials list is short enough to write on the back of a grocery receipt. 4 yards of untreated 100% cotton muslin, 44 inches wide, sold at any fabric store for roughly $1 per yard. 1 roll of aluminum mesh screen, 8x8 weave, priced near $3 per square foot. 1 staple gun, 1 flashlight with fresh batteries, 1 pair of work gloves. The total cost for the average American home falls between $7 and $9. The method itself proceeds in 5 clear steps, in this exact order, with no shortcuts and no substitutions. Step 1 begins on a cool morning before the sun strikes the roof. The homeowner climbs into the attic with the flashlight and inspects both gable vents from the inside. Daylight should be visible clearly through the screen of each vent. If the daylight is dim, blocked, or absent, the vents have been compromised by paint buildup, insulation drift, bird nests, or spray foam sealing. Step 2 involves clearing the obstruction. Old paint is scraped off the louvers with a putty knife. Old insulation is pulled back at least 18 inches from the vent opening. Any spray foam present is cut away with a utility knife and discarded. Most homes, built between 1960 and 1995, will reveal at least one of these 3 problems on inspection. Step 3 is the screen replacement. The old screen, almost always rusted or torn, is removed completely. A fresh piece of aluminum mesh is cut roughly 2 inches larger than the vent frame on every side. The mesh is then stapled to the interior wood frame using the staple gun, with 1 staple every 4 inches around the entire perimeter. This barrier blocks insects, bats, and rodents while permitting full airflow. Step 4 is the cotton installation. A single piece of cotton muslin, cut to match the dimensions of the gable vent on the sun-facing side of the home, is hung across the interior face of that vent. 6 staples secure the top edge. 6 staples secure the bottom edge. The cloth must hang flat against the screen but not stretch tight. The slight slack allows the fibers to absorb and release moisture across the daily temperature cycle. Step 5 activates the night draft. After sunset, when outside temperatures fall below 80 degrees, the homeowner opens one ground floor window on the south side of the house, exactly 4 inches, and one ground floor window on the north side, exactly 4 inches. The hot air built up in the attic during the day exits through the gable vents at the top. Cool night air enters through the open windows below. The home flushes itself completely between sunset and sunrise. The full installation takes an experienced homeowner roughly 40 minutes. A first-time homeowner working slowly may require an hour and a half. After completion, the system runs continuously for the next 8 to 10 years before the muslin needs replacement. The user story attached to this method belongs to a man named Raymond Hostetler, age 62, of Wayne County, Ohio. Raymond is a retired carpenter who spent 38 years building custom homes across northern Ohio. In July 2023, he applied this exact method to his own 1,650 square foot ranch home built in 1971. Within 72 hours, his attic temperature dropped from 138 degrees to 91 degrees. His July electric bill, which had averaged $284 over the previous 5 summers, fell to $97. His central air conditioner, which had previously run an average of 11 hours per day, now ran 3.2 hours per day. Raymond kept the receipts. The cotton cost $4.12. The screen cost $3.98. His total investment was $8.10. The cost comparison ends the story plainly. A new central air conditioning system, professionally installed in an existing American home, costs between $5,800 and $9,400. The expected lifespan of that system is 12 years. The replacement cycle continues for the rest of the homeowner's life. The cotton and mesh method costs roughly $8, lasts up to a decade, and adds zero load to any existing equipment. For 46 years, every American homeowner has paid a quiet tax on a problem that was solved 1,100 years ago in a Persian desert. The cure was never lost. It was simply made invisible. And the next investigation already waits. The 1811 Swiss method that holds a root cellar at exactly 52 degrees year-round, using nothing but a clay pipe, a bucket of fine sand, and a principle the modern refrigeration industry has spent $200 million ensuring no homeowner ever rediscovers. That story is coming soon to Hidden Fix Lab. Until then, friend, stay cool, stay curious, and remember the people who built this country with their hands knew things the rest of us are only just beginning to recover.